A woman sat down on her kitchen floor and started crying. Not quiet crying, the kind that comes from somewhere deep, the kind you can't stop. She was in early labor, alone and terrified. And her 15-year-old dog, a dog who could barely walk, who needed help getting up most mornings, somehow hauled himself off his bed, crossed the room, and leaned his entire body against hers. He didn't bark, he didn't pace, he just stayed. And here's what scientists now know. That dog wasn't guessing. He knew. This isn't a feel-good coincidence. This is biology. And by the end of this, you're going to look at your pet completely differently. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Animals don't experience emotions the way a textbook used to tell us they did. For decades, the scientific community was skeptical, cautious about projecting human feelings onto animals. But that wall has been coming down fast. Researchers at institutions like the Max Planck Institute and the University of Vienna have now confirmed what every pet owner has always felt in their gut. Animals read us, deeply, accurately, and in ways that go way beyond what we can consciously control. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Your body is constantly broadcasting information you don't even know you're sending. Your heart rate changes when you're stressed. Your breathing shifts. The chemicals your skin releases, called volatile organic compounds, actually change composition depending on your emotional state. Fear has a different chemical signature than sadness. Grief smells different than anxiety. And your pet? They're receiving every single transmission. Dogs, for instance, have up to 300 million olfactory receptors in their nose. Humans have about 6 million. That's not just a bigger nose. That's a completely different sensory world. When you're crying on the floor, your dog isn't just hearing your sobs. They're smelling the cortisol spiking in your sweat. They're detecting the micro changes in your breath. They are reading a story written in chemistry, and the story says, "The person I love is not okay." But here's the part that gets even more interesting, and this is the open question that researchers spent years trying to answer. Does knowing you're upset actually motivate an animal to come to you, or do they just notice and move on? Because those are two very different things. The answer came from a study published in the journal Learning and Behavior. Scientists had pet owners sit behind a closed door and either hum quietly or cry. The dogs on the other side, the ones whose owners were crying, were 3 times more likely to push the door open and get through. They didn't just notice the distress, they responded to it. They chose to close the distance. And it doesn't stop at dogs. Cats, often unfairly labeled as indifferent, have been studied too. Research out of Oakland University found that cats pay close attention to their owners' facial expressions and emotional cues, and they actively seek more physical closeness when their owners appear sad or stressed. Your cat curling up on your chest when you're having a rough day isn't random. They clocked your energy the moment you walked in. Now here's where it gets almost unbearable to think about, in the best possible way. Remember that 15-year-old dog from the beginning of this story? Scientists believe that elderly animals who have lived with their humans for years develop something researchers informally call emotional attunement, a deep, practiced sensitivity to their person's specific patterns. That dog had spent 15 years learning her good days, her bad days, the particular way her body changed when something was wrong. When she broke down on that floor, he wasn't responding to a stranger in distress. He was responding to her, the person he had spent his entire life reading. And even though his body was failing him, even though getting up hurt, he got up anyway. If that doesn't make you stop and just sit with that for a second, I don't know what will. Now let's talk about what's actually happening in your pet's brain when they do this, because this is the part the science community didn't fully crack until recently. For years, we assumed animals helped distressed humans out of something like trained behavior or simple conditioning. But neuroimaging studies, actual brain scans of dogs, have shown that when a dog looks at its owner's face, the reward centers of their brain light up, the same regions that activate for food and play. Seeing you, being close to you, responding to you, it's neurologically rewarding for them. Helping you isn't a burden. For your pet, it may literally feel good. And the loop runs both ways. When you pet a dog or hold a cat, your own oxytocin levels rise. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone, the same one that surges between a mother and newborn child. Your pet's presence is chemically, measurably calming your nervous system. This isn't metaphor. This is measurable. This is real. So what does all of this mean for you and the animal in your home right now? It means that quiet moment when your dog lays his head on your knee after a hard day, he's not just being cute. He tracked your energy the moment you walk through the door. It means that your cat who never leaves your side when you're sick isn't coincidence. She's responding to changes in your body temperature and your scent that you couldn't even articulate yourself. It means your pet has been watching over you, in the truest sense of those words, this whole time. There's a reason people have kept animals close for thousands of years. Long before we had language for what was happening, we felt it. That wordless understanding. That presence that says, I'm here and I'm not leaving. Science is finally catching up to what our hearts already knew. That woman on the kitchen floor, she made it through labor safely. She's talked about that moment, her old dog leaning into her, as one of the most profound experiences of her life. Not because it was dramatic, but because in her worst moment, she wasn't alone. A living creature, with no words and no way to fix anything, chose to show up anyway. Think about the animal in your life right now. Think about the moments they found you when you needed finding, the times they curled up closer on the hard nights, the way they seemed to just know. They do know, and now, so do you. If you've ever had a moment like this with your pet, a moment where they seemed to know exactly what you needed, tell us about it in the comments. I genuinely want to read every single one. And if this story moved you even a little, hit that like button. It helps us find more stories and more science that reminds us why the bond between humans and animals is one of the most beautiful things on this planet. Subscribe so you never miss one.